Welcome to the first ever episode of the Zero Five podcast. My name is Mike Abernathy, and to be honest with you, this is my first time ever trying to record a podcast. And excuse me if this is a little bit rough, but I'm not very technologically advanced. But I've had a lot of people tell me I had to try starting a podcast talking about safety team, church safety ministry stuff. So here I am giving this a shot. If you've been following my Substack, I have a 05 safety training Substack that I've been writing for about 6 months. And so this is my attempt at making a podcast out of that. And so I want to take this first episode and introduce myself and introduce what 05 safety training is and talk about church safety ministry and where I'm hoping to move forward with this podcast. So first off, 05 Safety Training is a group of veterans and first responders that have a lot of experience, either combat experience or emergency response experience or security experience, that we have all been working in the church safety realm for quite some time. And we have all felt God's pull on our hearts to help others build their safety ministries. And you'll note, please, that I use the term safety ministry because that's really what it is it is a ministry. There is a lot of ministry potential in protecting your church, which I'm going to talk about a little later in this episode. But what 05 Safety Training is just, it's a group of us that we helped start the safety ministry at our church. We've already kind of pro bono helped other churches build their safety ministries. We train our own safety team. And so that's what we do is we started a business. We've started a platform that helps. Our goal is to help churches build their safety ministries, but also to help take the experiences and training that we have received through our careers as adults and convey that knowledge and that experience and that training to these safety teams and to build these safety ministries doing that way. And so that's what 05 Safety Training is. That's what this podcast is about, is taking my experience, taking the experience and knowledge of other experts that I'm hoping to interview in the future, and helping you, the audience, build a thriving safety ministry at your church. And so I want to give my testimony a little bit. And if you've read my Substack, it's my most recent episode or most recent post called More Than Security. And I grew up in the church. My parents were Christians. I've gone to church my whole life. And to be honest with you, I have not had the greatest church experience. Being a lifelong churchgoer, it's unfortunate, but I have experienced every single thing that people who are anti-church use as reasons to not go to church. I've seen the hypocrisy. I've seen the lying. I have seen the misuse of funds. I've seen churches fall apart over gossip and false accusations and you name it. Unfortunately, I have experienced in church. And at the same time, I got kicked out of church. I got kicked out of my youth group when I was in high school. And that's a long story, but the overall theme of my life growing up in the church was, Mike, you don't belong. You are not one of us. You don't fit our mold. And it's unfortunate because a lot of people don't fit the typical church mold. And I hate to be stereotypical, but churches tend to do this. Is we call them khaki Christians. It's your khaki wearing, collar wearing, clean cut, no tattoos, never drinks beer. It's that stereotypical what everybody thinks is the ideal Christian, and I've never fit that mold. And so coming up as a Christian in church who didn't fit that mold, there was a lot of questioning of my faith because if I don't look and talk and act like these people, does that mean that Christ is not in my life? Does that mean when I prayed and asked Jesus into my heart that it didn't happen because I don't think like these people, I don't act like these people? Are they real Christians or am I a real Christian? And that was something that I struggled with my entire life, um, with that question. And at the same time, where do I belong? What who are my people? And so, coming up through high school, um, basketball was my identity. I was a basketball player. I played in college, and my identity fell more in basketball than it fell in with what church I went to, or even the fact that I was a Christian. I was known as Mike the basketball player. And midway through college, I ended up no longer playing basketball and losing my identity, really. And um, not being a Christian, but not really truly having my identity in Christ, really not having anybody in the church or any belonging or foothold in the church that helped me to realize that my identity was in Christ. I struggled. And part of that struggle, I decided to join the military. And God worked on my life at the age of 21. God said, "This is what you're going to do. I'm going to open up the doors for you." And so, and God did that. God opened up the doors for me to get into the military. And I figured, all right, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to be a little bit different. So I joined the Coast Guard. And yes, the Coast Guard is a branch of the military, probably more than Space Force, but let's be honest. Anyways, but so I joined the Coast Guard, thinking, you know what, I want to be a pilot. I want to rescue people, and I want to save lives. And so I went through all the application process, all the flight physicals, all those things, and I was told, no, you're not going to do that. The Coast Guard basically told me, we have this new capability we're working on. You're a prior athlete. We think you'd be a good fit. And so by God's design, I ended up in the Coast Guard's DSF community. That's Deployable Specialized Forces. And so being a part of that community, I got a lot of weapons training. I ended up getting a lot of security training. I got some TCCC. I ended up doing a lot of security ops, deployed to Iraq, deployed to Haiti, got exposed to a lot of things. And that experience changed my thinking. I went from being a just normal average Joe to I had been embedded with a bit of a warrior mindset that I didn't know I had in me. There was a protector's heart deep within me that was plucked out and put at the forefront in operating and training with that unit and other units like it, and the deployments that we went to. And so that was the start of me being a sheepdog, being a protector. Fast forward to 2013, and I was wanting to get out of the military. I was married. I had two young children. I didn't want to move every few years. I wanted my family to be able to set up roots, and so I applied for. And also at the time, the recession was going on, and nobody was hiring people with my skill sets. So I decided to join the fire department. And so I got on with the fire department in Central Texas, and through that ended up assigned to one of the busiest houses in the city, and got lots and lots of training and lots of experience in CPR, first aid, treating you name it, because we just ran all the time, and getting a lot of emergency response experience and interaction with emergency response agencies, police, EMS, fire. And so I now had all of this weapons experience, all of this security experience and training. I had all this emergency response experience and training. I had all this medical experience and training. And then 2017, Sutherland Springs happens. And if you're not familiar, Sutherland Springs was a guy went and shot up a small church in a small town outside of San Antonio. And that act of violence set shockwaves through the church community. The church community had this mentality of, it'll never happen to us, especially if you're not a mega church. Like, that stuff happens at mega churches. It doesn't happen at mid-size or small churches. And that act of attack changed things, especially here in Central Texas. And so Texas actually, as a result of that, passed laws that allowed churches to have armed volunteer security with no requirement for licensure at all, which really opened the doors. And so churches decided we need to do that. And my church was no different. I was attending a mid-sized church, and my family and I, my wife and kids were very, very involved in it. My wife helped out with the kids' ministries with our kids. Our kids loved it. She loved it. I enjoyed it. I loved our pastors. I loved just what they were preaching, and they were preaching truth from the word. They were not about entertainment or anything like that, which I truly appreciated. But I still wasn't plugged in. I still had no identity. Well, my identity was being a firefighter at that point. I still had no people, no community other than the fire department. And there's a natural brotherhood that comes with being a firefighter, just like there is with the military. And that was where my identity was in that brotherhood, not necessarily as a Christian and not necessarily in my church. So Sutherland Springs happens, and our executive pastor decided, hey, we need to form some kind of a safety capability, some kind of security. And so he approached a fella in our congregation that was a police officer and said, hey, will you try starting this? And this guy was like, yeah, sure, I'll give it a shot. He was also a veteran police officer, very similar experience to mine. And so they sent an announcement out, and 30 guys show up to the first meeting showing interest in being part of the safety team. Great showing. I was unfortunately on shift when this meeting happened, so I didn't go. And they scheduled a training day, and a friend who is now one of my best friends sought me out and says, Mike, this is right up your alley, bro. Like your experience, your training, you need to give this a shot. We're having a training day on this particular day. Why don't you just show up, observe it, see what happens? And it just so happens, probably like most safety teams, at least at that time, the training was very centered around the range and stopping active shooters. So we had a range day, and I show up, and there's 19 guys there, 19 out of 30 plus me, and guys are there with AR-15s, and I'm talking full tactical Timmy gear. And they're thinking, all right, we're about to shoot Johnny Jihad anytime he tries to mess around at our church. All right, cool. Except this range day was an absolute Charlie Foxtrot. If you're military, you know what that means. It was a mess. Safety violations everywhere. If you have range training, you would have lost your mind. People flagging people, dudes slinging lead while guys were forward of the line. It was bad. And they were trying to do all this John Wick for Jesus stuff to protect the church. And so I saw all that, and I was like, I had to raise my hand. And the officer that was leading, I was like, hey man, can I try running a drill? And sure enough, he's like, yeah, sure, give it a shot. And so I give a quick safety brief. I do all the standardized range stuff that if you've been an RSO or you've done a lot of formalized range training, you're used to. I did all those things. We went through a series of drills, and we had a blast. There were guys tightening up their groups, doing all the things that you want to do at a range day. We were getting better. And so after the range day, my buddy who invited me and the guy that was leading the team were like, hey man, will you join the team and will you help us lead this? And I was like, well, sure, I'm not involved in anything else. I don't have a lot of time, but I'll give what I can to it. And so the team leader was like, hey, do you know anything about writing SOPs? Well, when I was in the DSF unit with the Coast Guard, it was still in its infancy. And so I got some experience writing SOPs, doing that. And so I was like, well, yeah, sure, I can model it after what I did there and what we have with the fire department. And so I ended up writing our team's SOP. And he says, hey, man, what do you think about this for a security posture at our church? And so I looked at it. I was like, well, let's change this here and let's put a person there and let's do this. And so I adjusted his security posture. And he's like, hey, Um, do you want to schedule and lead our next training?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, sure." So we scheduled another range day, and I led another range day, and he's like, "Hey, will you do another training?" And so the next thing I know, I'm elbows deep in this new safety team capability at our church. I'm doing the training. I'm writing the SOPs. I'm effectively helping start this team. And 6 months later, I'm I'm fully involved. I'm showing up to church every chance I get to serve because I started growing a relationship with these guys that were showing up. And out of the 19 that went to that original range day, we had about 8 or 9 that were serving on a regular basis. And I started to get to know these guys and these gals. We've had females from the get go, and I was having fun with them. I was joking around with them, and if you know firefighters or veterans, we have a very different sense of humor. We're a little bit darker, and so I started to loosen up around these people and kind of joke how I'm used to joking, and rather than looking down at their nose at me like most church folks would do, uh, they were laughing at my jokes and they were laughing at my stories, and they were telling jokes and they were telling stories, and we were having a good time, and by all church terms, this was fellowship. We we were building a community, and for the first time in my life, I was involved at my church. I was involved in a community of people that were like me. For the first time, I belonged. And there was there was power in that because with that belonging started to grow some mentorship, started to grow some discipleship from older guys on the team. And as our team grew, the community grew, and the involvement grew, and the amount of service time, and man, all of the things that if you're a church leader and you're listening to this, think of all the things you want in a ministry. You want growth of the ministry. You want personal growth of the people within that ministry, growth in their relationship with Christ. You want discipleship of newer Christians and older Christians. You want fellowship, and you want involvement. I was finding all of those things in this safety ministry. And it was a safety team at the time. The church really didn't even consider it a ministry. We were just kind of the gun toters that stood in the back and kept their eyes open when they prayed. That was us. But we loved it. Like we were the self-identified uh, island of misfit toys in the church. And we loved it. We loved having that title because a lot of us came from the same church experience that we just didn't belong. We kind of had this running joke of we can't teach, we can't preach, we can't sing, we can't play instruments, and we don't have enough patience to deal with kids other than our own. So where do we serve at church? And the safety team was it. That was it. That was that was the stepping stone for this group of folks who were back row Baptists for most of their life. Many of the guys on the team, they were going to church simply because their wives were dragging them along. If given the choice, they would have stayed at home and watched the Cowboys game. But they were at church, and now they were finding community in the church of like-minded people, and now they were the ones bringing their families to church. Right? So the old saying goes, get the dad going to church and the family goes to church. Get the mom going to church and the kids go to church. Well, now we had entire families that were involved, and they were being led by the men in their life that were involved in this safety ministry. And I can give testimony after testimony after testimony of folks just on our team that the safety ministry has changed their lives. It's changed their walk with Christ. It's changed their relationship with their wives. It's changed their relationship with their kids. In fact, I had a guy come up to me a while back, and he just shakes my hand. And he's like, "Mike, my kids think I'm a badass now. And that's thanks to you. And man, they look up to me, and I love it." Man, like in that, there's power in that. And so that's what this has been for the people the people on my team, but also for me. And 3 years ago, the church leadership got together and said, we want to make this a full ministry. We don't want this to just be the gun toters that stand in the back and pray with their eyes open. We want to make this a ministry. They saw the writing on the wall that lives were changing as a result of this community. And they said, we want to build that. We want to lean into that and grow it. And so the church hired me on as a part-time staffer for the church to help grow this safety ministry. And so I was loving it. Here I was, the kid that got kicked out of youth group and church hopped my whole life. Now I'm at a church that I've been at for 11 years. Actually 12 years now. And now I'm on staff. And I would have never thought that, but God worked throughout the last 21 plus years of my life of creating in me this experience, this training, this change of mindset, and then he built me for this. He really did. We are in a time in our country right now where churches are no longer considered sacred. For the last 250 years, the church was a sacred institution. You don't mess around with churches. You don't mess around with weddings. You don't mess around with funerals. Well, funerals and weddings started getting hit 10, 15 years ago. And now churches have become targets. And so a privilege that we as churches enjoyed for the last 250 years, it's gone away. We're no longer a sacred, respected institution by general society standards, and we're a soft target is what we are. And so now churches, there is a distinct need for churches to protect themselves. And here I am with 20 plus years of security, firearms, medical, emergency response experience. And God was saying to me, here you go, time to go to work. And here I am trying to answer that call. And so right now I work at staff at our church. I've helped to start 05 safety training because what we have at our church, I feel needs to be replicated. And it doesn't have to be replicated, or it doesn't have to be exactly duplicated, but I think there are churches out there that they want a safety capability or they want a safety ministry and they don't know where to start. There are churches out there that they want security and they don't understand the ministry value of what a safety ministry can do for your church and the people within your church. The biggest target, the biggest group that I really want to address right now, and if you're listening to this and you're following along, you're like, yeah, man, that's right, right on. But I can't get my church leaders to bite off on this. Give them this podcast, give them my Substack, because if you're a church leader and you are saying, we don't want a safety team because we don't want guns in the church, or we don't need a safety team, we don't need security because God will protect us, you're missing the mark, man. You really are. You're missing the whole purpose behind it. Why are we going through all this stuff in our country that we're going through right now? Why are churches targets now, right now? They haven't been for 250 years, but now suddenly they're targets. Why is that? Protectors have been a part of God's people since the Old Testament. Go to Nehemiah. There were dudes building the wall with one hand and guarding the wall with the other. They had a sword or a spear in one hand and a shovel in the other. It's nothing new. It is nothing new that the church needs protectors. It's just in America, we have enjoyed some protection and some level of being sacred. We don't have that anymore. We just don't. And so now church leaders, if you feel that God is going to miraculously protect you and stop bullets or stop injuries or medical incidents from happening at your church, or stop children from getting lost, or stop aggravated parents having a divorce from happening at your church, if you think God is going to miraculously prevent that from ever happening at your church, you're sadly mistaken. All right. I don't know how many times I've heard pastors use this illustration, right? There was a man in a flood and the waters were rising, and somebody sends a kayak to him and says, "Hey man, get in the kayak. I'm here. I'm going to help you out." And he says, "No, no, 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 no. God will protect me. God will save me." So then the kayak leaves, and a guy drives up in a boat and says, "Hey man, the flood waters are coming up. Let's go." And he's like, "No, no, no. It's okay. Thanks, but God's going to save me." Helicopter comes in, rescue swimmer comes down and says, "Hey man, it's time to go." "No, no, no. It's okay. God's going to save me." Well, sure enough, the guy drowns, and he goes before God and says, "God, I don't understand. I put my faith completely in you. I trusted you to save me, and you didn't save me." And God looked at him and said, "I sent you a guy on a kayak. I sent you a guy on a boat, and I sent you a helicopter crew, and you turned them all down. This safety team, this is your helicopter crew. This is your boat. This is your kayak. God, I guarantee you, it doesn't matter how small or how big your church is. God has put people in your church that don't fit in with the other ministries, but they've got a heart to protect. This is the ministry. This is the chance to utilize those people, to get them out of the back row and involved in your church. Security is the byproduct of the ministry. It is not the focus, right? The focus is the ministry. It's the people. It's the discipleship. It's the community. You build that, and the security follows, right? Because when you have that community, they're going to want to spend more time together, and that time is spent training. And the more they train, the better they get. And the better they get, the more secure your church gets. It's this building snowball that once you get it going, it starts rolling downhill. Man, you can't stop it. And it's beautiful. It's great because it's changing lives for the better. But if you're a church leader and you're saying, "We don't need that. We don't want that. We don't want guns in our church. We don't need security in our church," you are missing the mark. You are missing the point. Don't look at it as security. Look at it as a ministry. Invest in it like you would a normal ministry. Does your youth group have a budget line? Does your worship team have a budget line? Do you have a budget line for missions? Well, if you're a church that you have a safety team, but they don't have any of your support, you give them no financial support for training or materials or radios or anything like that. You give all this money to these other folks and all these other ministries, why not give it to the safety ministry? Or if you're a church that you hire off-duty police, I have nothing against the police. I really don't. The police are fantastic. But one, who protects them? If you're expecting police to protect you guys, that's great. But what are they going to do on Sundays? Where are they going to go to church? Right? Or maybe you think, "Oh, we've got a couple of cops in our congregation. They'll handle it." Well, when are these police officers supposed to go to church and drop their guard and allow the Holy Spirit to speak to them through the pastor or through the worship music? How are they supposed to do that if they have to be on guard every time they show up on Sunday because the church has put their trust in them to protect them instead of another group of individuals? I've got an officer in my congregation that his wife had a medical incident once, and we helped her, and we had to call an ambulance for that specific instance. But he came up to me afterwards. He's like, "Mike, man, I can't tell you how grateful I am for the safety team." He's like, "Everywhere I go in life, I've got to be in condition orange," which if you don't know what condition orange is, you can look it up. It's Cooper's levels of readiness. He says, I have to go through life in condition yellow and orange. It's like, but I can come to church here, and I know that all of you guys are well-trained, and all of you guys have my back. So I get to worship. I get to listen to the pastor, and I don't have to look around the crowd looking for suspicious people because I know you guys are doing that. Man, like what? If you're a pastor, that's what you want. That's what ministry is. The safety ministry, they are the folks that allow the rest of your congregation to worship fully and freely, to close their eyes in worship and in prayer, to listen to you as the pastor, completely focused, open heart and mind, without having to worry about what's going to happen if my kid suffers an injury in the nursery. What's going to happen if somebody comes in here and tries to take my kid? They don't have to worry about that because you have a group of trained people within your congregation. They are protecting their own. And that's the other difference. Jesus said, he's like, I am the good shepherd, right? The shepherd that gets paid, he's not going to lay his life down, right? He's going to run. He's only going to do what you pay him to do. And that's going to, I'm not bashing police officers, but that's what you're going to get out of your police officers. Look at the Lakewood shooting down in Houston. I'm not bashing this guy, but this guy was leaning against a wall with his foot on the wall on his phone when the shooter walked right past him. And then when the shooting started, he pigeonholed himself. He put himself, he cornered himself into a closet and couldn't go anywhere, couldn't address the threat. Listen to the video, and his radio's chirping because the battery's almost dead. Right? That guy had no skin in the game at that church. He didn't have anybody going to that church. He was just collecting a paycheck. That's fine. Officers need to collect paychecks. Cities don't pay enough. But if you have people within your own congregation that are protecting their families, they're protecting the families of the people on their team, their people. They are protecting your congregation because they have skin in the game. They will gladly, willingly lay their lives down for your congregation. And if you already have those folks, but you're not supporting them, you are no different than any of these liberal cities that are defunding their police. You're giving the people that are willing to lay their lives down for you, your family, and your congregation, you're giving them no support. You're defunding your security. So if you're a pastor or you're a church leader and you're hesitant to start a safety ministry, or you're spending money on off-duty police to protect your church, or you don't think you need security, listen to what I'm saying. You have people within your congregation who are not involved. This is a means to get those people involved. It is a means to build a ministry that grows those people spiritually, which then it trickles down to their families. It grows your congregation. I've got folks that have joined my church because they felt safe at church, because of our safety ministry. I have couples that have joined our safety ministry that joined the church because they wanted to join the safety ministry. That's the power that this has. And if you're brushing it to the side out of pride or out of ego, and you need to swallow that, right? And I can't express enough the gratitude that I have for God, putting me through the experiences that I've been through, giving me the training that I've been through, and putting me right here in a church that is willing to support a ministry for guys like me. I can't thank God enough for that. And I think more churches need to have that type of mentality. I think God has made a ripe field to plant. We need to plant and we need to grow because the world is not getting any calmer. America is not getting any safer. And there's going to come a point where we're going to have to protect ourselves. And we're very near to that point right now. And so I encourage you, church leaders, pastors, if this is something that you don't want, think twice. If this is something you have, but you're not fully invested in, invest in it. Treat it like you would any other ministry within your church, and I guarantee you, the fruit's going to be plentiful. All right? But in all things that we do, we're going to protect his people, and we're going to give him the glory. So thanks for joining me on the 05 podcast. I'm going to try and get more episodes out soon. We'll see how this one turns out. Follow me on Substack, 05 Safety Training. And remember, protect his people, give him the glory.